Hi everyone, this week we're going to be talking about assessment and evaluation. So IDEA starts off, first off, it talks about needing to determine what the needs of the student are. Then once you do that, then you can determine goals, services, and placement. So this week our focus is on that first step, which is the needs. So here's a slide that kind of talks about and shows you the federal disability category and the percentage of students with that type of service, just so you can get a sense. And that was for low incidence disabilities. For high incidence disabilities, those account for about 80% of all students with disabilities, and you can see the breakdown there. So in a prior module, we talked about Principle 2, which is non-discriminatory evaluation. So you can see there on the screen, it first starts with all students are screened. Then it moves to pre-referral. So some students are pre-referred. And then it moves to referral and then the non-discriminatory evaluation procedures. And we're going to get into that in a minute. So first off, identifying and screening students. So screening, like I just talked about, is a light and quick assessment. So it's not in depth. It's an assessment of all students. It helps analyze strengths and needs. And if something is found during that screening, then it would move to the pre-referral step. So that's when a parent or an educator sees a student struggling. It allows then at that point in time in the general ed classroom to provide additional assistance to the student or the teacher so that referral might not be necessary. So in your readings this week, you'll read about response to intervention or RTI framework, which is a proactive approach to help those struggling students before referral. And then referral is a formal request to conduct an evaluation. And per IDEA, evaluation is the procedure to determine whether a student has a disability. And if so, then what are their needs? So evaluation is performed by a variety of school personnel, special ed teacher, gen ed teacher, school psychologist, OT, PT, speech language pathologist, nurse, and perhaps others. And I would also add parents. So all of these educators are working together in collaboration, like we talked about is important last week. Those professionals are testing a variety of domains: cognitive, achievement, motor skills, speech and language, emotional and behavioral. And there's two purposes of that. First is there a disability? And if so, does it impact education? Because it's not enough to just show that there's a disability. It really has to be impacting that student's education. The teams need to be guarding against cultural and linguistic bias of some tests, ensure parental input on the evaluation team, that's really important, and compiling assessment data and making evaluation decisions. So back to parent involvement in evaluation. So I've spent a lot of time talking with parents, and it's one of the areas that really it's very stressful. Parents worry about it a lot, and it's an indicator of their satisfaction with their IEP teams. And what's important about that is, parent involvement in the evaluation is important, but IDEA does not specify whether parents are part of the evaluation team specifically. IDEA only provides that the student's local educational agency, or the LEA, shall conduct the evaluation. But it does require the LEA to gather information from the parents regarding functional, developmental, and academic status. The evaluation is important because it's the basis for long-term outcomes for the child, but my question is that enough? So the team, as they do the evaluation, is gathering information from those parents, but it's important to also communicate, as we'll talk about in a minute, a little bit more, but does the parents really know what's going on? Is the communication there? All of those things we talked about last week. So there's different ways to involve parents, strategies. First off, inform parents about the RTI and other pre-referral practices that are possible in the school. Meet with parents to discuss intervention options and agree on timelines for those. Provide regular progress reporting to parents and review the progress data with parents and agree on next steps. And inform parents of their due process rights in regards to evaluation. But most importantly, like I already mentioned, develop trust with parents through communication and respect. And those are those really important things as far as partnership goes that we talked about in the last module. And listen to their questions and concerns. I mean, really just take an extra moment to just really hear what they have to say. So promoting trust with families in the evaluation process. This is something that you'll read in the Turnbull readings this week. First off is to ask them to share their family story. Just take the time to hear that. Ask them to share their child's strengths and needs and preferences and expectations. Many times the parents know and they have these, they want to share that. And let them tell you what their expectations are. Do they expect that their students will be able to go to a college? Or do they have other vocational expectations for that child? Let them share those expectations with you. Offer to let them help professionals evaluate and administer the evaluation. So let them observe the evaluation. Let them gather information to help with the evaluation process. Ask them to complete behavioral and other checklists, things like that. I mean, just let them know and help them to be involved. Have them collaborate to construct a portfolio assessment of their child. So are there pieces of work at home that they may have that they've gathered over time that might be helpful to the evaluators? And be sure that it's person-centered planning. So really the focus on the student themselves. When you're going through your readings, I would suggest there's a good checklist on page 244 of Turnbull that I suggest you guys take a look at. So feelings of parents in particular, and it really can vary and it can change. I mean, sometimes 1 minute, like we talked about, parents will have one feeling and then it could switch to another. So some of these feelings are relief in knowing that educators finally recognize the needs of their child. Some parents are anxious, like they don't really know what to expect. They don't know what the results are. They don't have control over the situation. It's very unnerving. Some may be surprised or not prepared, like this may just come out of nowhere. This may be their first child, or maybe they just have no idea what this looks like. Some may have objections. Negative effects of labeling might outweigh services, for instance. Some parents may just not want to know. There could be a fear of low expectations by others. So thinking that, well, gosh, if my child is labeled with a disability, are the teachers really going to have lower expectations of them? And the concern with that labeling. And that evaluation will be harmful or stressful to their child, particularly if they're younger and things like that. And wondering, did I contribute to my child's disability? Why did this happen? And why did I not know sooner? So back to the partnership practices that we talked about last week. First is communication. So how you can put this into practice in evaluations is be honest. For respect, you can honor cultural diversity when you're doing evaluations. For professional competence, you can set those high expectations, help make those families' dreams come true. Equality, share the power, and you can do that by communicating, respecting, all those other things. Commitment, be sensitive to the emotional needs of those families, and advocate, create win-win solutions, ask the family about their concerns, and tell them of their rights. So now we're going to get into the steps of evaluation. So the initial evaluation, step 1, is for referral to special ed services. At the building level, each building has its building-specific process, but they're all very similar. Like I mentioned, there's that RTI process where students are referred to the building level with general ed help, typically first. And a parent or parent representative often is referring, or the educator or teacher can also refer. The initial evaluation, step 2, is to review existing data. The team first reviews the referral, reviews existing information or data regarding the student, and determines the appropriateness of the referral. And first off, is the referral appropriate or inappropriate? So inappropriate referral would be, so the special ed team must provide prior special notice of special ed action. And the state refusal to initiate the evaluation, that's an inappropriate referral. And typically provide feedback to the building team for future steps of action for the student. Appropriate referral, so these are the steps for that. Reviewing existing data, wondering if additional data is needed, reviewing the determinant of eligibility for suspected disabilities, using that data to answer those questions. What's the present level of performance or strengths and needs? Is the disability adversely affecting the student's education? And what specific instruction and related services will the student need? The third step is parental consent. You need to, just like in the regular IEP meeting, you need to give the procedural safeguard at the time of the parent request and or at the time of initial eval. And you must have that informed consent back prior to conducting the evaluations. The prior notice and consent for evaluation form needs to include all of these steps that are on the screen. Date of referral, reason, decision, areas to be evaluated and the reasons for no additional evaluation, and that all data used to perfect or develop proposal for evaluation. So it's really important to document your date of receipt of the consent of evaluation. Because IDA has very specific timelines for completion of evaluations and developing the IEP. It's 60 days from receipt of completion of the evaluations and 90 days to develop the IEP if it's deemed warranted based on the evaluations. And now the team could decide that they need to conduct additional evaluations. There need to be using a variety of assessment tools, not one single assessment. Reflect achievement level, not just the disability. Include vision, hearing, social emotional, IQ, academic performance, communicative status, and motor abilities. And it's really important to document these evaluations. The evaluation report should include the results, strengths and needs, implications for instruction. And it's important because parents oftentimes don't understand jargon, so it's really important to avoid that. And it's also important to note that parents have a right to obtain independent evaluations should they deem that necessary. So I hope you guys enjoy the readings this week. In particular, the case studies about the parents in the evaluation. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys' response to that.